Welcome back, everybody. It's Joseph for Zenny62. So I have a Hollywood exclusive. So a couple of days, AMC Theater cut a deal with Universal to essentially allow Universal to send their first run movies into those theater chains and then pull them out in 17 days. So essentially what that's going to do is handicap the movie theater industry, because AMC, who's hemorrhaging severely and is in severe dire straits financially, and this is because of the expansion globally, but also in North America, as well as the upgraded premiere seats and the launch of their A-list program. Now, they recently were incurring in the last business quarter a small profit, which is paying off for them. But then this pandemic hit and it caused a financial crisis, not only for the country in general, but for AMC specifically, with the amount of debt they were carrying. Now, what's problematic with this is AMC had a feud with Universal and vowed never to run any Universal movies in their theater chains. And so it's ironic that this deal was cut with AMC theaters, at least in North America, to allow Universal to put their first run movies into their theaters and pull them out 17 days later to put it in Universal's own streaming platform and do an upcharge on PVOD, which is Premium Video on Demand, and essentially killing off the opportunity for theater chains to make any money off the showing of their movies. Now, what's very short-sighted is that we know AMC is hemorrhaging money, so they took a deal that would allow Universal, or that would give them a 10% cut of whatever earnings they got from PVOD. But that's very short-sighted, because the majority of money, as you know, through the movie theater industry is made in concessions. Because the studio is always, for example, let's say a studio wants to, or Disney wants to show Star Wars, and AMC bids to have it in their movie theaters. So then Disney will say, okay, well, for the first 2 months, we'll give you or for the first month, we'll give you a 90-10% cut. The second month, we'll lower it to 80-20. The third month, we'll give you 25%. We keep 75%. Now, those percentages vary depending on the studio or depending on the negotiation the theater chain makes with the studios. But as you know, theaters don't make any money through showing the films. They make money through the concessions. So if they have a premiere movie out, or a movie that's anticipated that wants to be seen by the theater-going audience, they generate people in their theaters. They buy popcorn, they buy soda, they buy souvenirs, they buy t-shirts. Whatever the movie theater is selling, more than likely the consumer will buy. And that's how movie theaters make their money. Now, this could severely affect, let's say that the industry goes this route, which I highly doubt, but let's say it does. What happens to those small independent movie theater chains or independent movie theater houses, such as Grand Lake Theater in Oakland? So Grand Lake Theater is a beautiful theater that has been in the community for more decades than I've been alive, obviously. But this theater is one of the hallmarks in the community. It is owned by Alan Michon. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I know he's a personal friend of Zenny. And so this could severely affect someone like Alan's theater, Grand Lake Theater, because this is not going to allow them to show first-run movies for a lengthy period of time, or the time necessary to recoup any financial rewards to keep the operating going of their theaters. There's operating costs, right? The lights, the marquee, the workers that are making the concessions, the hot dogs. There's a number of, it's hard to make money owning a movie theater. So kudos for Mr. Machon to actually, or Machine, to actually take hold of this theater and make it what it is, or continue making it what it is for the community. Now, this is bad for operators like himself, because you're handicapping him as well as other independent movie theater owners, because they're not going to be able to recoup any money, and it sets a bad precedence moving forward. Now, I don't think this is going to continue. I don't think this is going to work, because ironically enough, as I mentioned before, Star Wars, Disney, who owns Lucasfilm and Pixar, make more money running their movies in a theater than they do on streaming services or on PVOD. Because essentially, let's say that a new Star Wars movie comes out and you want to put it straight on Disney Plus or maybe on demand, how much are you going to charge for that film? If you want to recruit, let's say for a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 kids, you're spending about $70 for those, let's say 2 kids, 2 adults, let's say $20, depending on where the tickets are, what theater chain, and then the 2 kids. That's just to go into the theater, let alone buying popcorn. That's how they make their money. But let's say they have a movie that's on POV for $20 on PVOD. You can invite as many people as you want at home. So that pie gets smaller and smaller in terms of profit. And so what essentially AMC did was say, okay, well, we'll let you do this. Like I said, they're hemorrhaging financially. They cut this stupid deal with Universal, but they also said, okay, we're going to give you 10% of our PVOD since you're allowing us to do this. But that's very short-sighted, because that 10% is going to disappear really quickly, and that's not going to save you from all your operating costs and the amount of debt that you're in. That is a sucker's bet. And for AMC to go through with this is really stupid and not economically sound. And you got to question who's running AMC theaters. And why would you even consider such a stupid deal? And it's obviously Universal saw this wounded animal in the corner and decided to take advantage of it. And that's essentially what they did. Because there's an organization called NATO. And it's not that NATO. It's North American Theater Operators. And under NATO is obviously a union type of organization that allows theaters to organize and come together and set a standard in North America. Now, NATO's not going to improve this deal. So just because AMC did, it doesn't mean it's going to get ratified or continue to be in the studios that way, because what essentially NATO could do is to Universal says, no, we're not guaranteeing you. If you go through this with AMC, we're kicking AMC out of NATO, but at the same time, we're not going to show your theaters. If you want to show your movies, we're not going to show any of your movies in any of our theaters. So that just leaves one movie theater chain, AMC, to only show Universal films. And if Universal decides that after 2 weeks they're going to pull those first run movies and put them on their own streaming service, they're essentially handicapping themselves as well. So again, I would severely support your local theaters. Maybe complain to NATO and tell them, hey, this is a stupid deal. It's not going to benefit anybody in the long run, especially those of you who like traditional movie theater going experience and that whole Hollywood, that whole mystique of Hollywood and going. It's something we enjoy as kids. One thing we're talking about nowadays is in the pandemic, how we've lost what we used to know. Things aren't what it used to be. Well, guess what? This is the one thing that they're trying to change right under our noses. And I know that theater chains are hemorrhaging. They're suffering, as are restaurants and other small independent businesses. So when we have an opportunity to support them, we should. But again, it's a bad move by AMC Theater to cut this deal. And we'll see what happens moving forward. I'm sure there'll be more explosive news coming out of Hollywood with regards to this deal. And keep it here on Zenny62, and don't forget to like and subscribe.